What did I get myself into? So immediately after jumping off the porch, I was thinking to myself, should I have just stayed in Egypt with Pharaoh and them? Should I have just stayed in my situation? Should I have just kept the house? Exodus 16:2-3. In the desert, the whole community grumbled against Moses and Aaron. The Israelites said to them, if only we had died by the Lord's hand in Egypt. There we sat around pots of meat and ate all the food we wanted. But you have brought us out into this desert to starve this entire assembly to death. They were upset because even though they were oppressed with Pharaoh, they feel like, well, at least we had food to eat. At least we knew where we would lay our heads at night. So prior to leaving, God had me file my taxes through TurboTax. As I completed my taxes, it gave me the option to receive an advance. I selected it and was approved for $2,000, but it wasn't instant. I still had to wait on the IRS to accept my return. The advance is now at the back of my mind, consumed with getting everything moved out of the house by myself, still loving and nurturing my son, and trying to provide him with as much normalcy as I possibly can, literally shielding him from what was happening around us. Money was tight, but I was at peace with what God had ordered me to do. I consulted with no one about my move. God knew they wouldn't understand why I was doing what I was doing. For safety, I made a pact with 3 people that truly loved me and wanted what was best for me. I told them when I was set to leave in case anything happened. While I was traveling, someone would know where we were. Out of the 3, only one was immediate family. We will come back to that in another video. So boom, the money was deposited the day before I was set to leave. Talking about right on time because I needed tires and I was preparing to travel through snow. So while we're here, let me tell you, God was with me the entire time. Not once did I feel alone. He was very much so a present help. So listen to this. The deposit hits my account. I'm like, thank you, God, I can get my tires. I leave home and set out to go to the nearest discount tires. As I'm leaving, there's one like 0.4 miles from me. But when I get near it, I kept driving. So I looked for another one in a different area. When I arrived, it was in an area I wasn't familiar with, and you could tell it was an older store. However, I'm good in any hood, so I parked. The store had all Hispanic employees. I walk in and I'm greeted by a gentleman. I tell him I'm not sure what I need, but I'm moving back home and have a 16-hour drive. I just want to make sure me and my son are safe on the road. In other words, don't sell me anything I don't need. I need to stretch this $2,000. Like, I really need to stretch it as much as possible. He walks out and examines my tires to find that all of them need to be replaced. I'm like shaking my head, I don't have time for this. He quotes me a price for about $460 for all 4 tires and warranty. I tell him that I'm not able to pay that much because he just changed the 2 that were the worst. I don't know what he said, but his coworker came over and they began to speak in Spanish and on the computer. After speaking with his colleague, he tells me that he has a set for $350. I'm like, yes, that's perfect. Nobody but God. I immediately called my grandma and tell her how God was moving at that moment and that God was at the tire shop working deals on my behalf. And let me tell you, anytime I've had trouble with my vehicle, God seems to always send a Hispanic to assist me. So now, our bank total is $1,500 with tires, oil change, and a fill-up. Once we left, I knew I had a 16-hour drive ahead of me. My plan was to drive 8 to 9 hours and stop for a rest at a hotel. Once we made it, my son was hungry. We walked to the nearby Steak and Shake and ordered pizza. The next morning around 4 a.m. as we prepared to leave, I instructed my son to wait in the lobby while I warmed the car up and pulled to the front. I was surprised to find my car had been repoed in the middle of the night. It was 4 a.m. in the morning and customer service was closed. I asked the clerk at the hotel if I could check back into my room while I figured it out. I laughed and prayed. I knew God was with me and a little too familiar with how a repo works and the percentage they would require me to pay. I'm like, I'll be fine. I just need to find out what I need to pay the creditors. I let my son play in the room all morning, enjoyed the amenities at the hotel until they opened up at 9 a.m. I had learned at this part of my journey that anything that is out of my control is not for me to stress about. I immediately laid it at God's feet because you're not about to stress me out and I'm in the middle of nowhere. I found out that I needed to pay $683 to get my car back. I pay it and wait for the company who told it to open at 11, constantly pushing me back from getting back on the road, but I don't know what God was shielding us from, so I'll just say thank you. Oh, and let me add a disclaimer. All while this is happening, my license was suspended, but that's also for another video. So now, our bank total is $672 with the hotel costs, food, and the repo. I finally make it to my destination, and I'm not sure where we're going to stay permanently, so I find a reasonable hotel for the night to rest and figure out my next move.